So I had made a video on US elections and that I had voted, and many people were asking me how I became a US citizen, so I made a video on that. And then a lot of people were asking me, who did I really vote for? I will explain in detail who I voted for. I will explain my rationale why I voted for that candidate and what I think might end up happening in the US presidential election. So whatever predictions I make, we will find out in 2-3 days whether they come out to be right or not. So these are purely my personal views regarding who I voted for and why I voted for that candidate. So rather than delaying it for too long, let me just tell you that I voted for Joe Biden and I voted for Democrats throughout. And why did I do that? See, I was planning to vote for Trump right from the beginning. My vote was going to be Trump because I was very happy with many of his policies, where he was enforcing the law and he was keeping his promises on many issues that he had raised while he was running for office. But then I decided to switch my vote and go for Joe Biden, and these were my most important reasons why I voted Democrats. So my number one issue why I voted for Joe Biden and Democrats is to do with the climate change issue. See, Trump pulled out of Paris Climate Accord, which in my view was a blunder decision. If we do not protect climate, we will end as a human race, and not just that, we'll take all other living species along with us. We have no right to mess with the environment the way we have been doing. And Joe Biden in one of his speeches said that he will go back to Paris Climate Accord and then he would install charging stations for electric vehicles throughout the country, and then that he would go after clean energy systems. And that in my view is a very important issue, because of which I voted for Joe Biden and not for Trump. My second reason for voting for Joe Biden was to do with Affordable Health Care Act, also popularly known as Obamacare. See, Obama had very good intentions, and I believe that although the execution of Affordable Health Care Act was not perfect, but it has still good ideas to it. Now, US being the richest country in the whole world cannot even provide universal health care to its own citizens. In fact, if you get a serious illness, it can really make you bankrupt, and which is really wrong in a country that has fantastic healthcare facilities, but the system is so broken. What can you talk about people who have serious issues such as cancer? Insurance will cover only so much, but beyond that, if you cannot afford to pay for your treatment, you are in trouble in the US. So the system is such that only rich people can afford good healthcare. Normal people who are working hard and are good citizens can really go bankrupt. And I strongly disagreed with President Trump, where he wanted to get rid of affordable health care. And because I believe that Joe Biden is likely going to improve whatever weaknesses there were in Affordable Health Care Act, that he won my vote. Third issue was to do with world peace. See, Republican governments in past have been responsible for starting major wars. The war in Iraq, where the Bush administration claimed that there were weapons of mass destruction, was completely humbug. There were no such weapons, and just based on their hunch that they might have weapons of mass destruction, they destroyed the entire country. And not just that, a lot of American soldiers lost their lives. So many families were destroyed. And not just American soldiers, a lot of innocent people in that area were killed. And over and beyond that, it led to a whole new set of violence in that entire region, and the entire peace was gone. Now, President Trump thankfully tried to fix the previous Republican government's mistakes. He did not initiate any new war. He did take some initiatives, but I was not happy with his decision of pulling out of Iran deal. President Obama put a lot of effort to improve relationships with countries like Cuba and Iran, and the Iran deal was a great breakthrough, and Trump comes and immediately suspends it, which in my view was a wrong decision. The people of Iran are really good people. I have so many friends from Iran. So many doctoral students and professors that I have are from Iran. And I think that we should give a chance to Iran to improve relationships with the whole world. And in my view, it is very important to take all countries along with you. This is a modern world in which we are living. You cannot just label somebody as evil throughout and not even try to get onto the table and participate in discussions. At least let the other party speak out. Not a single Iranian citizen was involved in 9/11 attacks. And not just that, I had a lot of friends from Iran who were my peers in the doctoral program, and they can't even go back to see their own families. And in my case, I have a close friend whose grandmother recently passed away, and because of the travel ban, he could not even go and see his own grandmother. And this is such a major issue in my view. I think that the new president should try every possible thing to improve relationships with all countries. America is not like any other country. We are the most powerful country in the world. If America does not take the lead to establish world peace with every single country, which other country can? What I'm hoping for is that President Biden will be more proactive in establishing peace with all countries. My fourth issue was Trump's extra efforts to improve relationships with North Korea and actually validating Kim Jong-un and his dictatorship. See, I was very happy when Trump tried to improve relationships with North Korea and he even met the dictator Kim Jong-un. But if you're willing to meet a dictator who has openly declared his intention to use nuclear weapons if the need be, how can you not talk to Iran? I appreciate the efforts for peace, but in the process, what Trump did is that he validated Kim Jong-un in my view. This is a person who is an outright dictator, a third generation dictator of a country. He kills his own people, where if anybody tries to oppose his decisions, they are just executed. And Trump goes and accepts him as a recognized leader and accepts North Korea's involvement in many such activities where they have openly declared and have known to have nuclear weapons. And what has been the outcome of that? Nothing. North Korea tends to be the same rogue state that it was before. The fifth issue that I had with President Trump was his highly temperamental nature. The kind of tweets that he writes is sometimes embarrassing. When he meets world leaders, for example, when he met the French president and his wife, he hung up the phone on the Australian Prime Minister. Then he used inappropriate language for the Canadian Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of Norway. I think this is highly inappropriate and very unpresidential-like. The sixth reason why I voted against Trump is his mishandling of the COVID situation. On February 26, in a press conference, he said there are only 15 Americans who have coronavirus and in 2 weeks we'll have 0 cases.
And again, when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to 0, that's a pretty good job we've done.
What do we have today? We have 250,000 people dead and many, many more infected with this COVID disease. This is complete mismanagement and underestimation of the situation. He was constantly advised by very knowledgeable people on this issue, and he decided to ignore all that and still go on and risk people's health. He himself got infected with COVID, but still he did not learn the lessons. In fact, he got the best treatment in the whole world that anybody could get. Of course, he would get the best treatment because he's the president, no joke. But what about common people? He does not understand the gravity of the situation, which I'm hoping President Biden would understand better, because even when you look at how these people perform at rallies, you will not see President Trump with the mask on. He does, but he immediately takes it off, whereas Joe Biden seems more responsible to me. My seventh reason is the constant increase in military expenditure. And I think it is important to have strong military, but the fact is that America spends more on military than the next 10 countries combined. Whereas he cut the budgets on academic scientific research and education, which in my view is wrong. There were cuts in research budgets for CDC and NIH a while ago, which in my view is just wrong thinking. I think military should be supported absolutely fine. But you should not increase their budget and cut budgets on other issues where it is even more important to invest heavily. So what are my predictions? I think that Ohio will be taken by Republicans, and it is possible that Pennsylvania and Florida will likely go towards Democrats. My craziest prediction is that Texas might end up going blue, although it is unlikely, but it is possible for the first time in many years. And why I say that? Texas population has increased significantly in last 10 years, where there has been large scale migration from Democrat states. And over and above that, the mood in Texas has been dwindling because a lot of young people have become unemployed and are struggling, and they are likely to take their anger towards the Republican Party by voting Democrats this time. And not just that, I am a part of a lot of social media groups that are local to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and where I see a lot of people commenting against President Trump. So that gave me an impression that it is possible that Texas could turn out to be blue state, although still unlikely, but we may never know. Texas could spring a big surprise. However, if Texas stays red, don't blame me, because it is expected to stay red otherwise. Since World War II, every time when S&P 500 index has fell down 3 months leading to the presidential election, 88% of the times the incumbent president has lost the elections, and the same has happened again. So overall, I think that we might end up having Joe Biden as our next president. I could be very well be wrong, but this is my hunch that that is what is going to happen. See, because even in last elections, Democrats won the popular vote even though they lost the electoral college. This time they will continue to win the popular vote, but electoral college, even a small shift in some key states can make a huge difference. And that is why I think that Joe Biden might end up becoming the president. Now, I should caution that whenever I have made such predictions on many things, I have been more wrong than I have been right. So I could very well be wrong this time again. But this is what my instinct and my hunch says, is that we'll have Democrat president this time. See, in conclusion, I consider myself a neutral voter. I do not identify myself as a Republican or a Democrat. I change my vote depending on the issues that I think are important and the candidate who supports those issues which are important in my view. Now, I do not think that Joe Biden is a great presidential candidate either. I think he is a temporary placeholder until we get a much better presidential candidate in our next elections. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind and God bless America.